Good evening, viewers. You're watching the Democratic Newsroom. I'm Preeti Chaudhary. We are back with yet another edition of the Democratic Newsroom, and it comes from something that happened in Parliament today, which took many by surprise. The government tabled what can be easily said a very contentious bill, the Constitutional Amendment Bill. Since then, it's gone to the JPC, but it's got not just the political class divided, but even when it comes down to journalists. And that's exactly what we are discussing today. Somewhere down the line, does the Constitutional Amendment Bill override the very tenet where it comes down to natural justice? Or it's time that we have cleansing in the political system as well. If civil servants have to step down from their position, why not politicians? Let's throw it open. We have two new entrants today. Maria Shakil joins the Democratic Newsroom. B.V. Rao, our editor, is also stepping in this time. We have Manish, my colleague, who's also be joining us. But let me quickly introduce our editors table to you. Anisha, we have Nalini, and as usual, Gaurav Sawant. So, B.V. Rao, would you want to go first? What's your opinion?
On the bill? We throw around the term constitutional morality these days. It's all over the place. Anybody and everybody who talks about the Constitution throws in this term, constitutional morality. If constitutional morality is a thing, then there is no problem with this bill. Right? Because Constitution morally required you to step aside if you were arrested or charge sheeted. Not convicted. Conviction, there is a separate law for that. So, constitutional morality required you to resign, and it used to happen. Right?
Right.
So, till there, I'm okay with it. This law is fine. But the thing is, in 79 years of our democracy, our constitutional morality, there's just one chief minister who worked from or tried to work from jail. Not that he actually worked from jail. He tried to work from jail, it didn't happen. That's the one exception. Normally, laws are made and laws are created and exceptions are made. Here, a law is being created for an exception. So that is what is problematic for me. Law is broad brush. Law is never made for an exception. Okay, that is one. The second is the recent experience of using the agencies has not been very fair.
Yeah, there's an allegation where the
right.
opposition is concerned, the weaponization of
One
agencies.
is, yeah. Why do we call it weaponization? Because they have hardly ever resulted in any concrete action. Charge sheets take forever and ever. People are there in jail for 18 months, 2 years, close to 2 years. So, is this fair to ask anybody to resign or to say that once an agency arrests you and you are in jail for more than 1 month, and if the offence is 5 years plus, right, then the person needs to be sacked. The president will then sack the person. That is where I think is the biggest catch in this. That is what gives us, the recent experience gives us, injects that worry into the entire debate. Maybe this is not as clean.
The apprehension of misuse, the apprehension of agencies becoming state political actors. That's what you're trying to suggest. So, all right, so B.V. Rao's laid it down. If there is moral constitutionality, but in this day and age, has there been moral turpitude, especially in politics? Many would suggest that's an oxymoron. But I want to bring in Gaurav Sawant into this conversation. Gaurav, what are your views on this?
So it depends whether you're looking at people first or politicians first. If you think people first, then what does this law say? That people should not suffer. Why? If a Neta is in jail for more than 30 days, 31 days, then he cannot discharge his or her constitutional responsibility. So he automatically steps aside. The work can happen. And we've seen an example in the national capital. But if he gets bail, and are we to say that courts will not grant him bail? If there is something wrong in the system, you improve the system, right? You don't say that let people suffer all along till the time we make that perfect law and have that perfect society. You have to be people-centric. If you have a people-centric approach, then at least their work will not suffer. if Neta A goes to jail, Neta B will come, Neta C will come, unless you're saying, oh, this person is irreplaceable, he's the only one who's good for the people of that area, nobody else is.
So Gaurav, you're basically saying it's good that the bill is been tabled, it's gone to the JPC. You're pro.
I am in favor of a great debate if a great debate were to happen
bill or
and
not
not
pro bill, pick a
disruption.
side.
So I am very happy to see a great debate happen
Okay.
and get all sides of the story.
Some of
because
that
some
debate.
of them who
Right.
say that we'll become a police state.
Okay.
I believe in the majesty of our courts, and I know our courts are independent, and I know our
Okay.
courts are not subservient to the executive or the legislator, as some may try to say.
But
I
okay,
don't think
but
so.
I'll just add one thing, because sometimes the hands of the courts are also tied, especially where you have laws like PMLA, which are already being contended in court, where at least for the first 30 days, even getting bail is impossible. So by the time that bail comes in, you already have had to step down. But I want to just get in a legal point of view, and then I'm going to get in Maria. But Nalini, you want to weigh in on what the bill actually says?
Preeti, I think it's a little bit ironical when Gaurav says that you have to be thinking of the people, you have to be people-centric. People are the ones who should not suffer. When what you're essentially doing is removing an elected representative that those very people have chosen in the first place to lead them, to govern them. That elected representative who is a part of the legislature is being removed through arbitrary executive action. It's a direct attack on the doctrine of separation of powers, and what's worse is that it's being done without any checks and balances in place. There is no judicial approval for the fact that if somebody has been arrested, do they deserve to continue being in jail? Should they resign from their post? Is something that can come into question only when at least to some extent some charges are proved against them. Forget charges being proved. At least let the court frame charges against a particular person so that you know that the court has gone through the merits of the case to a certain extent, and they think at least prima facie there is enough ground to frame certain amount of serious charges. In addition to that, you've added this arbitrary term of offences more than 5 years punishment, which according to the data on Vidhi website includes over 2,000 offences, from something as serious as kidnapping or attempt to murder to something as trivial as trying to stop a public servant from discharging his duties.
But is that trivial?
Of course that's trivial when you're talking about removing an elected representative from his seat.
And that to
For
be on doubt.
act,
That to be on
mere
on
allegations.
accusations,
And
not convictions.
just one last thing, Preeti, I would like to add.
Quickly.
I would really like to appreciate how they've added the term Prime Minister in this, as if trying to make it seem that any police officer has the authority or the guts to go ahead and arrest the Prime Minister in the first place.
It's been
we're
done in
also
the
going
past.
to we're also going
It's
to
been done in the past.
I'm going to come
Yeah,
to
but
Maria.
within
We're also going to
25
get Munish in. One of the main reasons why we have Munish today on the Democratic Newsroom is because Munish covers the agencies like the ED and the CBI. So lots of questions swirling there. But Maria, come on, what's your point?
Yes, so Preeti, look, Caesar's wife should be above suspicion. There is a reason why legislators and ministers are seen differently. While there is a Representation of People's Act which covers legislators, that is the MLAs and MPs, there is nothing that actually corrects if ministers go wrong. While there is a constitutional expectation of a minister, there are also moral expectations from ministers. Invariably, what happens is that legislators and ministers are not seen on the same footing. That's the reason why, because of the power that executive wields. What I feel is that in recent times, there have been only last year 2 examples. First, Hemant Soren, who resigns because of moral responsibility. He has someone else in office, and then he wins in people's court just few months later. You have another example of Arvind Kejriwal, who makes that exception, continues to be in office, and then loses in people's court. I think people judged these 2 comparisons, by that, people said that they do not have faith in his governance because that was being done from the jail. Because of that exception, I think a legislation of this nature, of course, there is a joint parliamentary committee which will be further deliberating it, And because we have a consultative process in democracy, this is the need of the hour. Let MPs talk about it, let other stakeholders come in, but rejecting this bill as draconian outrightly may not be fair.
Mari, I just want to flip that argument, because you gave the example of Hemant Soren's government. Yes, he resigned, but what is feared by the political class today is the misuse of agencies to destabilize governments, especially when they're going into an election. The classic case is Hemant Soren, because Hemant Soren steps down on moral turpitude, appoints somebody else, and lo behold, there is a huge play out of his party being turned upside down with Champai Soren trying to get into a coup, joining the BJP later. He might have won it. Many think that he actually won it on the sympathy factor, not because he stepped down. But this is exactly what political class is fearing right now, because they are fearing you're going to try and misuse it, you're going to try and stabilize my government. Look, it happened in Jharkhand with Hemant Soren.
But Preeti, when it comes to toppling of government, it doesn't necessarily have to do with a chief minister stepping down. We have seen instances of Maharashtra as well, where governments have moved. So I think when it is about this particular legislation, there has to be a consultative process, which is beginning. Toppling of government vis-a-vis a minister resigning or a chief minister resigning may not be the case. In past, countless examples have been there, from Lalu Yadav to many others in the past, who have resigned only because they were fearing arrest.
No, fair point. But, that was my limited interjection there, because you had a Champai Soren who later goes and joins the BJP. Many would suggest that this is exactly what you're fearing. But I want to bring in Munish, and I'll go to Anisha then, because a lot has been spoken of the weaponization of agencies like the CBI, like the ED, of how they could pretty much turn into state and political actors. It's something we hear very commonly coming in, Munish, where the opposition is concerned. Why I feel, and many feel, that this fear needs to be voiced is virtue of data. Last 10 years, 193 cases on politicians by the ED and the CBI, out of which we have seen only 2 convictions, one of 193. 98% of the 193 cases are only on the opposition. I'm not saying that this is vendetta. Nobody is saying this is a witch hunt. But then you can't even blame the opposition to say that, see, you're misusing your agencies.
Okay, so there are 2 points. First, I think that, when you are a public representative, then your responsibility and accountability is much more in comparison to any other person. For example, if a public servant is arrested, then there is a rule, and by law, you have to be suspended within 24 hours. So if there are charges of corruption against any politician, be it a chief minister, be it anyone, that person should resign. As B.V. Rao said just a while back, that in last 79 years, there have been only 3-4 cases, and that are recent, when they decided not to resign. One is Arvind Kejriwal, second is Satyendra Jain, and in third case, and it becomes very important, in Senthil Balaji case, he decided not to resign. Supreme Court had to intervene, and Supreme Court asked Senthil Bala, you have to resign because you can't discharge your duty while you are in jail.
Can I give you another example? Narayan Rane. 2021, when he was arrested, he was MSME minister, and he is on record to say that I will not step down. It was, of course, another matter that he was given bail in 2 days. But make your point.
So, as far as agencies are concerned, remember, Preeti, there have been a lot of allegations against CBI and ED. As far as the political arrests are concerned, in the same case, Arvind Kejriwal went to lower court, high court, and Supreme Court. He presented his case, but he was not given bail for months. Satyendra Jain went to Supreme Court. The arrest and the allegations by the ED or by the CBI is based on the evidence. When there is no evidence, then they are given bail by the same judiciary. For example, Sanjay Singh, he got bail in 2 months because there were not enough evidence against these politicians. But when it comes to certain politicians, and if there are allegations of grave corruption against them, I think they should be held responsible because they are elected representative. And as Gaurav said, that people should not suffer.
But fair point, but you've got 193 cases ever since 2014. Some of them are still continuing. Actually, how many?
So the problem
Most
is
of them are
judiciary,
still continuing.
As Gaurav rightly
It's
pointed
also
out,
the point of PMLA, no, Munish?
See, Preeti,
where the ED books somebody under PMLA, that person for the first 30 days in any case is not going to get bail.
No, he can get bail. There are people who have got bail in 7 days, even if they have been arrested in
Tell
PMLA.
me, if you look at the data which has come in of the 193 politicians who've been booked under the PMLA, tell me which one has gotten bail in 7 days.
Okay, I will tell you, Preeti. I have a very simple answer to it. The problem is not with PMLA or ED or with the CBI. The problem here is with the judiciary. The judiciary in the country is functioning in a way where the trial goes on for 15 years, 20 years, and that is why if you talk about the conviction rate of ED, it is 93% at this point of time.
Fair point. You know,
Sorry, if the problem is with the judiciary, then why are you trying to fix that by bringing in a new law?
I want to bring in Anisha because Anisha, there's the other argument, and which is a very fair argument. If our civil servants are following a certain protocol, which is that they step down in 30 days, what makes our politicians different?
See,
Why shouldn't they be asked to step down?
if I can make 2 points here.
Sure.
One is to answer your question. The other one is to respond to what Manish has said about the judiciary being the problem here. There are supposed to be fast-track courts in the country, which, by the way, the judiciary has been asking for funding, for staffing, for everything. Judiciary is not and cannot be the panacea for everything in the country. Somewhere the executive has to step in and get the things in place for a judge to hear the matter. If the charge sheet doesn't come for several months, if the evidence does not come, a judge cannot take a decision. Let me give you some numbers here. As of 1st January 2025, there are 4,732 cases pending across states against MPs and MLAs. 559 of these have been pending for more than 10 years. Out of these, 863 cases are with regard to violation of 144, that is curfew orders, protests, or as Nalini suggested, something as simple, if I may use the term, as blocking a public servant from doing their job, which, by the way, includes standing at a barricade and going, "Main aage jaunga, mujhe aage jane do," which happens pretty much every day. There are 1552 cases against sitting MP MLAs right now. This is the data that I've got from the status report that the amicus curiae has filed from records of the high courts. 170 cases out of these, 251 of our current MPs have criminal cases. 170 of them are cases where the punishment is 5 years plus. Therefore, right now in our parliament, 31% of people in our parliament sitting right now are facing heinous offence cases. Now, Manish is saying, why doesn't the judiciary do something about it? When? How? Charge sheet has to come. Evidence has to come. Our FSLs take forever to give responses. Our trials take forever because charge sheets, there are supplementary charge sheets upon supplementary charge sheets. Take any ED case. There are at least 3 to 4, if not 9 or 10 supplementary charge sheets.
May I just come in for 30 seconds? This is not about MPs and MLAs. It's only about ministers and chief ministers.
You can't be a minister without being an MP or MLA.
It's very
My
specific.
point-
Okay, quickly wrap your point and then we'll come back.
The point I want to quickly make is, you see that your chief minister cannot function from jail. Your ministers cannot function from jail. So in case they are jailed, let there be somebody else who will step in so that you put people first and not ministers first.
I agree with that.
They should not function
I
from jail.
remember,
That's the
and I think
limited
Mr. Rao will also, can come in and correct my memory. There was a telecom minister who functioned from jail. Sukhram, if I'm not wrong, but quickly make your point.
Sorry, just one point that I'm making, that because this bill as it stands right now, and I'm not saying that this is a bad bill, I'm saying it's badly drafted. It needs to be looked at, it needs to be considered, consulted, because you need to make sure that you're not simply taking political advantage.
You know, in UK there's a ministerial code, which if you have a case against you, if you have been accused, there is an allegation, you automatically step down. And we've seen in the last 2 years, so many of those ministers have stepped down. Just because by the virtue of our politicians being completely besharam or lack of a moral turpitude or radar, they don't step down.
Most of them have stepped down in India.
But in the recent last 10 years, they have.
Look at the last.
We gave you the
Except for last year, ministers have been.
They would always step down.
I gave you an example of Narayan Rani in 2021.
So I think we are discussing one important thing. Which is the
Final
problem
point,
with
sir.
this. The problem with this is that when you convert morality into legality, so morality is supposed to be observed, legality is supposed to be implemented, right? So that is where this problem is. If everything was followed, see, why did Arvind Kejriwal do what he did? Because he knows that his case will go on for 20 years. And then if he's convicted, then he will have to resign. That 20 years later, he won't be chief minister by then anyway, right?
Okay, because we have less time, Mr. Rao, I'm going to ask you one question and we're going to go all the way back because I want to get everybody in. Do you think this bill will pass? Because it's a constitutional amendment,
not easy.
two-third majority. Do you think there can be a joint sitting? That's a grey area. How do you look at it?
I think so. It's not going to be easy to get 2/3, especially in the Rajya Sabha.
Right.
So if they do a joint session, maybe, but they'll have to work the numbers like crazy. They're not what you call very favorable right now. But how they'll do it, maybe smaller parties will be asked to abstain. I don't know.
All right, guys, we have 1 minute each
emerges
for
from
5
the
of you and I need to
JPC.
quit. Okay, Maria, you want to come in and then Gaurav, you come in and then we'll all go like that.
Preeti, look, the intent with which this bill has been brought, and it was Home Minister Amit Shah who tabled it. The bill has now been sent to a joint parliamentary committee. There is a proper process which will be followed, and this bill will be passed. We have to wait and see whether it is the JPC is for 3 months or 6 months. Clarity on that will emerge. But the government is fully confident, and they have reasons that they have the numbers. They will ensure that
How
this
do they
bill is
have the
passed.
numbers?
They have the 2/3 numbers.
So it
How?
also depends. I'll tell you how. I'll tell you how. You cannot prejudge what our honorable lawmakers will do. However, let's see what emerges from the JPC, because once what emerges from the JPC will have concurrence or opposition of most members who've sat on it, deliberated on it, and then we'll see who is in favor of corrupt or the allegedly corrupt remaining in office and who are in favor of only clean governance. So if you're in favor of clean governance, I'm sure you'll
So
support
I'm
the
only,
bill.
Gaurav, I'm only
You know,
going by the virtue of
so-
the political parties that have spoken out against the
I'm
bill.
sure even some of the some of the even NDA allied chief ministers will be very worried.
Will be worried, like
It's not-
TDP.
And maybe some in the opposition will also support it.
You never know.
ultimately.
Okay, you
So
never know.
it
But I'm
remains
just,
to be seen.
why we are saying, maybe Mr. Rao and I are saying it's difficult is we are just going by the current placement on how the cards
The
are stacked.
immediate context.
Immediate context. Okay, 1 minute each. Go ahead. Make your
Preeti,
point.
I agree with Gaurav, Maria, Munish that elected representatives must be held accountable, and under the current system they are held accountable, where if they are convicted for any offence more than 2 years, they are automatically disqualified. In the recent past, we saw it happen with Rahul Gandhi, who today sits as the leader of opposition in the Lok Sabha. It's very much a possibility in case there is some serious charges against an elected representative, they can be removed. Second thing is that the government does not seem to be in any rush to get this bill passed. When it was listed in the parliament, it was clearly mentioned that it's being listed for it to be recommended to a committee. It seems for me,
Okay.
at this point, it's a narrative building
Quickly.
exercise, nothing more than that.
So
All right,
that
1
shows
minute.
how fair our system is.
Okay,
1
1 minute.
barred is back as
Gaurav,
LOP.
1 minute, 1 minute. my show is getting late. Next one. Go.
So Preeti, I was speaking to someone very important this afternoon, and the
Who?
person
How important?
was of the opinion that this bill will not pass.
Will not
because
pass.
of the 2/3 numbers. Government will face difficulty in getting those numbers.
So much has changed from here to there. Okay, make.
That is my
yeah.
conversation with that
Okay.
person. Okay, but end of the day, I think that this bill is very important. And why the government came up with this bill? Because when the Arvind Kejriwal episode happened, or even for that matter, Satyendra Jain, government went through the entire law and everything, and they got to know that there are no provisions on the basis of which elected representative CM can be removed, and any person sitting in jail cannot run the government. So that is why this bill is extremely important. I think everyone should welcome it.
But it's not going to be passed, you said. Because a very important person
That
told
is-
Munish, which he'll tell who that important person is after. Yeah, quickly. Make your point and then we go. You have 1 minute, Anisha.
One point that I want to make when we're talking about who is misusing what and what misuse is possible. One example you have is Senthil Balaji, who resigned only after the Supreme Court said, resign or we will cancel your bail. The other, by the way, is Vijay Shah from Madhya Pradesh, a BJP minister, who has not resigned, who's not been asked to resign, who's not even been arrested, with the Supreme Court itself saying which constable is going to have the guts to arrest a sitting minister, even though the charges against him seem to be serious. In that scenario, and we are bringing in this kind of a law where you have a very jiski lathi uski bhais system going on in the country, and therefore the
All right.
question of misuse is always there.
Okay.
The second point, just one tiny
line.
point.
Only based on
No,
that
okay, one
legal
second.
safeguards
Only based on
must be
apprehension.
Okay,
there.
what I'm going to do is
Legal
I'm
safeguards
giving.
must
I
be
know all
there.
of you want to come in, but you guys can always come in. Maria is going to be with our Democratic Newsroom every week. Munish will always invite you, but our special invitee, B.V. Rao, he's the first time he's come in, and I would think, sir, final
You have
thought.
been very good from my earlier experience of watching you on, on air.
So you have 30 seconds. You
Yes.
wanted the last
Yeah,
one.
less than that.
Okay.
I'm saying bill or no bill, I hope every top executive who is arrested on anything resigns first.
Okay, that's a
The
good one to go.
integrity clause in public life.
Yeah.
That's a good one to go. You want to come in? Quick, say, Munish.
Just based on some apprehensions or some theories, we cannot oppose a bill.
Okay.
Something like this.
No, not apprehensions, but then I can't now. I don't have time to finish this. I need to close the bulletin. Okay, thank you all for joining us. We're going to see you next week on Democratic Newsroom.